guys, welcome. Rafael Begosso here, and today we're going to be taking a look at a track I finished yesterday, so it's brand new. And first we're going to take a listen, and then we are going to talk about it. Well, there were some sounds cut and some issues, but that's just my computer trying to handle screen capturing and playing back all the samples at the same time. I even deactivated some of the mastering effects to save some processing, but it was not enough. But you can have a pretty good idea of the track, and if you want to listen in the full version without sounds cutting and without the mastering effects, you can go to my SoundCloud or to my web page. So let's talk about what was the first idea I had in this piece. It was this string pattern here. I'm going to play it for you. So it was one of the things that happened to you out of almost nowhere. You can sit in the piano and you came up with something that's very nice. And that was my idea. Obviously, I listened to a lot of things before, and I have my sources and I have my inspirations. So it's not really from out of the blue that I had this idea. but it's a pretty good idea to start a piece. And then I reinforced it with low brass and some percussion. Let's listen to this intro with strings, percussion, and low brass. And then it comes my theme. Very simple melody. The chords actually are not that complex also. I'm going to analyze it for you for a second. So we start with E minor, then also in E minor, but instead of the E, I have F sharp doing some melodic movement, but it's also, it has a harmonic function. It's a ninth. And then again to E minor, but this time the F sharp goes to G, and we really can hear the E minor here. Then I have B major with the third in the bass. All right, B major seventh with the third in the bass. Let me check if if it's correct. D sharp, B, and A. All right, that's correct. Then back to, it's not an E minor actually, it's a C major with the third in the bass. That's kind of a deception. You think I'm going to go back to E minor, but I go back to C major. All right, it's a very common harmonic movement. Then I introduce an F sharp in this C major with the third in the bass. Then I have a kind of how can you call this chord? You can call it a C sharp diminished, the triad of the C sharp diminished with the third in the bass. And then back to B major, this time without the seventh. All right, so that's the harmony, at least for this intro and for my theme. All right, the only different harmony I have in this piece is here in the B section, where it has the vocal melody. Then my melody, simple melody on the horns, also very much in E minor. Let's listen just the melody with the chords in the strings. right? So that's my theme. Then we have a B section that's much more calm and different from my A section that contains the theme. Let's take a look at the chords of this section. I start with a G major, I'm sorry. Then I go to C major. Then G major again with the third in the bass. Then A. It's not an A actually. It's an F with the A in the bass, the third in the bass. And then to end, G major again. And this harmony sounds like this. Alright, so very simple harmony. The only thing that's not really in E minor, it's this F here. Alright, and it's actually a B section that's not in E minor, so to speak. It's in G major. That's the major relative of this tonality. So let's listen to the melody and the chords of this first part of the B section. Let me solo this and this. Then there is a repetition with also legato strings, and then we go to a section that is a transition. I'm going back to the theme. I'm going back to the epic. I don't know if that's a word, but the epic mood, if I can say that. And back to E minor. So let's listen to this transition I have here before going into the theme again. Again, just strings doing the chords and horns doing the melody. The harmony of this transition is E minor, then C major, then A minor, and then B major with the seventh, that prepares the next chord, that is an E minor. All right, so in this next section I have again the theme with more instruments. I introduce the choir, and I don't even have a coda. It's just a boom. So let's talk about orchestration. It's very, very simple and very common in epic tracks. I have here strings that in my theme are doing that motif, that short rhythm I showed you in the beginning. And then in the B section, it's doing chords and a melody in the high register. I have percussion, just some orchestral percussion, timpani, bass drum, and cymbals. They are reinforcing the short motif on the strings. And also I have a kind of epic percussion here that's from Heaviosity. But we are going to talk about the libraries a little bit later. Then low brass reinforcing also the short motif, horns doing melody, trumpets doing melody in the theme in the second time the theme appears, some trombone chords. I have a solo voice for the B section. Then I have a choir, staccato choir, to also reinforce the short motif on the strings, and legato, men and women, doing the melody in the end of the second appearance of the third appearance, I should say, because here is the first and here is the second and here is the third presentation of the theme. And then I have some sound design, just some low booms and some risers. All right, no woodwinds, and it's very common that this kind of track doesn't have or doesn't need any woodwinds. So let's talk about the technological aspects of this piece. This time, as I'm not using my slave and all the complete libraries, so I had kind of to work with few resources. I'm not using, especially because I'm having an issue with Vienna Ensemble Pro and Cubase, as you might know if you take a look to my other videos. So I had to load all the samples directly into the Logic project. So this is one of the reasons why when you heard the track, it was a little bit strange and cutting some sounds, but it plays back fine when I'm not doing the screen capturing. Here I have Spiccato from Albion, from Spitfire Audio, layered with LA scoring strings. All right, that's a very, very good and common combination, because LA scoring strings, it's a dry library with lots of punchiness and attack, and the Albion, it's recorded in a good hall in the Air Lyndhurst, and it has a very nice ambience. So you combine the both and you have an ambient sound and a punchy sound. Then the long strings are actually Sordino strings, also from Albion. The high legato strings also from Albion. So all the strings here are either from Spitfire or LA scoring strings from Audio Bro. Percussion, epic percussion, just one track for epic percussion. It's the Damage from Heaviosity, the Armageddon ensemble. Then I have Damage cymbals. Then I have Cineperk from Cinesamples timpani, Cineperk from Cinesamples bass drum, and Cineperk from Cinesamples cymbals also. they have the rows controlled by mod wheel, so I thought it was easier than dealing only with the damage symbols, even though they have a very nice sound. Then brass. The low brass is from Cine Samples also. The low monster brass, I used the short articulations. The horns are the 12 horns legato ensemble, also from Cine Samples. They actually now sell this separately from the Cinebrass Pro, and this library is amazing. It worth every penny you invest in it. Also, I have in the second and third presentation of the theme the trumpets, also from Cinebrass, and the trombones sustain, also from Cinebrass. Solo voice are Jennifer from A Dio. Let me check if that's right. Yeah, Jennifer Legato from A Dio. Choir Staccato, it's a very good library. It's Performance Samples Oceania. It's amazing library for short choir. It's a very epic library, so don't expect it to do low dynamics very well, but it's a very good for strong dynamics. Legato Man, I was planning to use Storm Choir too, but it was very limited in terms of range, so I went with Volten from Stress of Sampling. Storm Choir, it's also from Stress of Sampling, and I wanted an A sound, so I had to tweak here the attack and the release of the sound. I used the one syllable chuck, but without CH and without K, so it goes to an A. Women Legato is Storm Choir. It's actually Storm Choir, what I was planning to use for my choir. And the sound design, the boom and the riser are from Project Alpha, but as you may notice, I prefer to use the WAV files, so I can align here precisely in the moment I want them to happen. So the mixing and the mastering of this track is, as you can see from the mixer, basically setting up the correct volume information in the faders, and very few processing, very few effects. Because they are all samples and they are all well recorded, so you don't need to do a whole lot to make them sound right. It's best to arrange them and orchestrating them in a way that works, rather than using equalizers and compressors. I have some exceptions to the rule though. That's the solo voice. I wanted a little bit more presence, so I used an 1176, the vocal, the anniversary edition. That's very good for vocals. Also, I use it in the choir staccato from Performance Samples, just to bring it a little bit more controlled in terms of dynamics. I also EQ'd a little bit this choir because I rolled off the very low frequencies and I added some body to it. But not that crazy, you know. Compression here, it's 3 dB at the peaks, and even in the whole track it's a lot less than that. I stay in that kind of middle ground, not very much compression. Some more processing here on my stereo out. That's kind of my mastering section. my favorite reverb, it's from Universal Audio. It's called Lexicon 224, and it's a very, very nice reverb. I use usually in the large hall B preset and just insert that, and it's fine. And it's also good because it doesn't use the processing power from your computer. It uses a UAD processing card. Some cuts here in the EQ, middle low muddiness 250, a little less of 100 hertz, and rolled off everything below 40 hertz. I also used it so I don't need to gain stage here, so I reduced 7.5 dBs of everything. Then I have Virtual Mix Rack in the Neve preset. I shouldn't say preset, it's more kind of a knob. And the key here is to stay a little bit close to the zero, almost sometimes even a little bit more, sometimes a little bit less, but don't exaggerate on this. Let's keep it near zero. I have Virtual Bus Rack, VBC. I leave all of them turned on just to color my sound, but I only use compression here in the SSL compressor. Again, in the peaks 3 to 4 dB, not more than that. All right. Then I have another instance of Virtual Mix Rack with a little bit of shimmer and a little bit of thickness from the Revival plugin, which used to be free. I don't know if it's anymore. You can download it and check it in the Slate Digital website. Also, I have a Pultec kind of EQ, also from Universal Audio. This EQ is very nice because you can boost and attenuate at the same time. And even if you have the same levels, it brings some punchiness and some magic to the track. I have some here in 60 hertz, boosting a little bit, attenuating a little bit, very low bandwidth, and also in 10 kilohertz. I'm boosting and attenuating a little bit. Virtual tape machines from Slate Digital also. I used here 15 IPS, the 1.5 2-track, because it's in my master bus, and also you should stay here close to 0, not much more than that. I also denoise it a little bit. And finally, we have here a limiter, FabFilter Pro limiter. It's a very transparent limiter. I usually use the preset Film Score, Gentle and Musical, but I I lower the output and adjust the gain here until I see sometimes -3 or -4 dB of limiting. All right. So guys, that's it for my short track. I hope you liked. Please subscribe to the channel and press the button telling me if you liked this video. If you have any questions, you can leave a comment or reach me through my email or social media. Thanks. We see you next one. Bye bye.